let's do the gun rights story a little bit, okay? Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's go to work, okay? So the Supreme Court rules for the first time since 1791, when the Second Amendment was ratified, what the hell the Second Amendment means. Because, of course, the big question about the Second Amendment is, do regular average citizens have a right to bear arms, or is it just an organized militia? You know, that they can bear arms within the context and the framework of an organized militia, because that's in the Second Amendment, those words are. And they have settled the issue. 5-4, you know, not... It's a close decision, as almost all of them are these days, so that doesn't make it any less relevant. 5-4 is almost as good as 9-0 in the way the Supreme Court works. And the decision is, no, it is not within the context of an organized militia. Individual citizens have the right to bear firearms. So they struck down, in this particular case, a Washington, D.C. law from 1976, where they said that if you're going to keep firearms, they have to be dismantled and not have taken apart and not have bullets or ammunition within the gun, handguns. Okay, and this decision says you can have handguns, and it is critical and important to the understanding of the Second Amendment that you be able to defend yourself in your own home. In fact, Scalia went further and said this decision puts into doubt whether there can be laws preventing people from bringing guns to public places like schools and government buildings. And furthermore, he said, this was totally gratuitous, he threw in there, handguns are very important to Americans because you can hold them in one hand while picking up the phone and calling the police in another. What's he writing, a novel here? I don't know what's so gratuitous, for no need for that. And he threw into question whether the felons and the mentally ill could be barred from having guns. So in Scalia's world, if you're a mentally ill person or a felon and you want to walk into a government building with a gun, have at it, hoss. I think that's crazy, right? But that was not the heart of the decision. That was just a kind of almost an aside, he said, where it throws into doubt. That was not the question at hand in this case. So, you know, that'll have some implication, but not, you know, it's not precedent. It's dicta at best. Anyway, so the bottom line is you can have a handgun in your house, and the Second Amendment has been settled. It is not related to militias. It is related to citizens. Okay. And, of course, all the conservative judges voted yes on it. All the liberal judges voted no. And the one person in the middle, Justice Anthony Kennedy, the guy who, by the way, ruled the right way on the Guantanamo Bay case, went the other way and voted with the conservatives. Now, I'm split on this one. I'm a little conflicted on it. Policy-wise, I don't agree. I think, look, when we did the gun story and we got the emails and we got the comments, and I know, gun owners are obsessed. That's their baby. That's their booty. They gotta have their gun because if everybody comes in, I'm gonna murder them. Okay, I know. I got you. But on policy grounds, you know what happens? When people have guns, more people die. My policy desires are separated from what I think is in the Constitution. And I think the Supreme Court had a very legitimate interpretation of the Second Amendment. So, you know, I'm not really even sure if I was on the Supreme Court which side of that issue I would have come out on. I would have had to hear both sides during the case. I would have had to look into the history of it. It would have been a really close call. The Constitution is the Constitution, whether you like it or you don't like it. Now, if you don't like it enough, you can amend it. So if those of us who don't believe that everybody should back a six-shooter want to change the policy in that regard, good luck to us. We've got to pass an amendment that overrides the Second Amendment, which is awfully difficult, and it's not going to happen, right? So there are issues that I think are critical, and then I get really you know, worked up over and how the Bush administration has run roughshod and is radical and extremist on these issues. You know, our warrantless wiretapping, abuse of the Constitution, abuse of executive power, invading Iraq, etc. Those are core to our government and how we function, and whether we're going to have a real functioning democracy or not. And then there are other issues that I care a lot about, but that I don't think are core issues. I think that are debatable issues, and if you win on the debate, great. If you don't, you don't. And we live in a democracy, and we have to accept it. So, for example, some people who are pro-life say, no, I'm pro-life, and it's a life, and I can't negotiate on it. But the thing is, if you're going to live in a democracy, you don't have a choice. You can't be above the law, right? And that applies in this case for people who are for more gun control. If the Supreme Court says that in the Constitution you have a right to bear arms, then you have a right to bear arms. And we live in a democracy, and that's the way it goes. If you don't like it, convince enough of your fellow citizens to override the Second Amendment. Otherwise, we lost on that one. Sad day for us.